This is episode number 16 of Sports Consiglieres podcast. I'm your host, Jim Whalen. Along with me always is Jerry Calla. It's a real pleasure. Second episode in a row. We have a former Giant. We had Perry Williams on the last episode, and it's my pleasure to introduce Super Bowl champion, played 148 games in the NFL, 10 years in the NFL, played for the Giants, also played for the Green Bay Packers. Bill Ard, and let Ard be your guard. So famous guard. So Bill, thank you for your time. Can't thank you enough for coming on with Jerry and I. I know you started out your football career in New Jersey. Can you talk a little bit about your high school career, how you ended up in Wake Forest, and the first couple of years with the Giants, Ray Perkins and Parcells leading up to the Super Bowl.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on. I am honored. So I grew up in Watchung, New Jersey. When I was a kid, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, all the way through up to eighth grade, I love sports. There was no organized football back then, so we would play tackle football at the schoolyard or someone's backyard. We put on a little plastic helmet and we go out there and we tackle each other. And it was just kind of my nature. So in eighth grade was the first year my dad allowed me, when Pop Warner came to our town, I played in it. And, right away I had, a good experience. I loved it. I was a linebacker. I played I played tight end actually my first year in eighth grade. And then when I got to high school, I was the biggest guy on the line. So hence I went from tight end to tackle. So, but I never considered myself an offensive lineman. I considered myself a linebacker because that was my passion. I started as a sophomore at Watchung Hills, and wasn't a lot of guys starting back then, and sophomores. So I played linebacker, and then, somehow they maneuvered me over to the offensive tackle spot. And I think by the end of my sophomore year, I was starting, varsity playing O-line and linebacker. Then the next year, my junior year came around, and we had a pretty good ball club my junior year. We made it to the States. It was the second year of the States, and we wound up losing to the best team in the state, Mattawan. Mattawan had a brilliant high school team. It was equivalent to like a Don Bosco or a Bergen Catholic nowadays. And, they had all in all, probably like 15, 16 guys that are Division I on the field, on the roster, that were maybe sophomore, juniors, and seniors. Jim Jeffcoat went there, and they had guys going to Michigan. They had guys going to Colorado. They had guys going to Rutgers and Syracuse. They had guys. And so then my senior year, we came around. Our team was, a pretty decent team, but back then there was no internet, there was no scouting system. Everything was word of mouth. Everything was basically word of mouth. So who was looking at me coming into my senior year? Schools like Colgate, I think Rutgers. Then I started getting a couple letters here and there, and I remember at the end of my senior year, there was a banquet in Edison, New Jersey. It was the top 100 players in the state of New Jersey. And every player who wanted to play college football, every college program was there. I mean, Division III, Division II, Division I, Southern Cal, Notre Dame, right across the board. I would say 80% of all big-time colleges were there. And they had a booth because New Jersey was a hotbed. And what they did was they had a banquet, and they would invite the best 100 players in the state of New Jersey to the banquet. But before the banquet, they would allow people to come, and players that were looking for colleges to go there and just sell their goods. So I went with my high school coach and 3 or 4 other guys, and I think our quarterback made the top 100 list, but I didn't. And I can still remember this vividly. I was talking to North Carolina State, and here I am, like 6'4", almost 220. I probably ran a 4.8 40 legitimate. So I went to their coach and I said, "Hey, coach, can you tell me about your linebackers, your outside linebackers? Can you tell me what your average size and speed and everything is?" And he's like, yeah, they're like 6'3", 220, 225. They run like 4.8 40s and things like that. So he was describing me specifically, like exactly. That's exactly who I am at the moment. And so he said, oh, are you part of the top 100? I said, no, I didn't make the list. And so he just dropped me like a bad habit, it was just boom. It was funny. I mean, like, he's a really intelligent coach because, when you look, it's, sports is kind of simple. It's a bikini test. Do you pass the bikini test, number one? Then after they pass the bikini test, then the next thing is, can they play? And you look at film. So that was funny for NC State. But anyway, there was a coach in Somerville, Jerry Moore, great coach, great program, Somerville. And
I'm from Elizabeth, so he was Elizabeth coach there for a while. He did very good success over there in Elizabeth. Jerry Moore.
I was raised, my first 6-7 years of my life was in Elizabeth. My dad, Elizabeth people. My dad's St. Pat's, my mother's St. Mary's. So that's
you're speaking my language now, Bill. So you're speaking.
All right, now you understand. So Jerry Moore.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jerry Moore, scouts would come, and Jerry said, hey, the best kid in New Jersey, the best kid in the area is up in Watchung. And then hence I got, people looked at me. Everyone that looked at me offered me a scholarship. I can remember Iowa coming by, and the coach was kind of funny. He's like, he's kind of this big old country cowboy hat wearing dude. And he's like, Bill, we're going to take your film back, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to say to you, Bill, you can play in the Big Ten, or Bill, you can't play in the Big Ten. So I said, sounds fair, coach. A couple days later, I get a call back. Bill, this is Coach so-and-so from Iowa. We looked at your film, and we believe that you can play in the Big Ten. But by that time, I was looking at Maryland, Duke, Wake Forest, and those are the type of schools I was interested in. I had no idea how good I was. I had no idea because I had no one to judge myself. Because I went to a high school that, didn't produce like Division I players. Even though, interesting, another fact, Watchung Hills from 1977 to probably somewhere like 2001, 2002, like I think like 25, 26, 27 years. We've had a starting left guard in the NFL, from Tommy Glassick from Watchung Hills, who went to UVA, first round pick, to Keith Sims, who played 10 years. I think Glassick played like 7, but he quit. He didn't really care for the sport. I played 11 years, and I think Sims played 10 or 11 years also. So, we had a really good run, for Watchung Hills of left guards.
Yeah.
So I just felt comfortable with Wake Forest. They were, they were playing big time sports, big time teams. They were playing ACC, but also outside the ACC, they were playing like Georgia's and Michigan's and LSU's and Purdue's and things like that. So I decided, not knowing anything, I'll go down to Wake Forest and I'll play. So I went down there as a linebacker, and I lettered as a linebacker. Didn't start, but probably could have started. But that's how it was. And then we had a bad team. We were 1-10, and they fired the coach, and then they brought in a guy named John Makovic. John brought in a brilliant staff of coaches that 3 or 4 of them became like 20-year plus NFL coaches. And so I was fortunate. And so they had a decision to make. Wake Forest was throwing the ball back then, and they needed a line. So they decided who was going to play, who's going to move on defense. So they decided to move me. So I went to defense, and actually I was probably like, 235. And I started at left tackle. And I somewhere by the end of my sophomore year, I think they moved me to guard, and the rest is kind of history. Next year, we had a real good season. At one point, we were like 7-1, 8-1, and beat LSU. I'm sorry, we beat Georgia down in Georgia. We beat Carolina, a great Carolina team, who wound up beating Michigan in the Gator Bowl that year, and we lost to LSU in a bowl game. But we had a good team. We had a progressive offense. John Mackovic was a really good coach. We threw the ball a lot, probably threw the ball 60% of the time. And the other, 30-something percent, we would run sweeps. And I would pull, and I loved to run. And so I was fortunate to be at Wake Forest at that time. If I was there 4 years earlier, probably would not have been in the pros. But when I went to Wake with Jim McNally, the line coach, he started like brainwashing me. You can play on Sunday. You can play on Sunday. Yeah. So I believe I can play on Sunday. And then my senior year, thought I had a real good year. I played in the Hula Bowl, which was just more of a fun time, but I played very well. Then I went down to the Senior Bowl, and I thought I had a great week of practice. And in the game, I played against Keith Gary, who was All-American defensive tackle, first-round pick by the Steelers. And, I controlled him. It was like in the game was like it was a battle, but I controlled him. He didn't get a sniff. And so this was before the combine. And then for some reason, the draft comes out, and I get drafted like in the 8th round. Whereas, I had guys that were drafted ahead of me that I was scratching my head. I mean, I didn't think, that we were in the same conversation. And ultimately, I proved him right. I proved myself right that, I played 11 years, and I actually could have got a 12th year in because Green Bay kept on calling me to come back for my 12th year, but I was tired. I was getting hurt for the first time, so that's when I packed it in. But I came to the Giants as a rookie, 45-man roster, made the 45-man roster. First game of my rookie year at home, Giants were playing Eagles again at the Meadowlands against Philadelphia, who lost to the Raiders the year before in the Super Bowl. So they were, they were a really good team. So we had, 3 guards, 3 tackles, and 2 centers. And our one tackle was injured going into the game. So we had a backup left tackle. And of course, what happens, the backup left tackle gets hurt. And so who's left? Me. So I'm a left guard, and they moved me to left tackle in the NFL. And I played like probably 40-something plays, second half, threw the ball probably 35 times. And I did a pretty good job because I actually thought I should have been a tackle. If I was a little bit bigger, I would have been a tackle because I can handle guys in space. But played well. Then somewhere early in around week, 7 or 8, left guard for the Giants, Roy Simmons, wasn't really playing very well. Decided to take practice off. They threw me in. I ran every play off for the offensive team, and then scout defense, I ran all the plays. Perkins said, we're going to start him. So I started my first game, and then I started 10 straight. We went to the playoffs, a couple of playoff games, and I made all NFL rookie team. And then in the next 8 years, I missed one. I hurt my knee, second to last game of I think of the '84 season, and someone fell on my knee, so I missed that game. But I think I missed one regular season start in 8 years from the very first point of starting those last 10 games, and including playoffs. I think I started like 112 games.
Oh, wow. So, Jerry, I know you're waiting to get in here. So, far away. I know he's my Giants consigliere. So far away, Jerry.
Hey, Bill, I just want to say, thanks for coming on with us. It's a huge honor for me. I mean, one of my favorite Giant nicknames of all time was the Suburbanites. You were a big part of that. I just wanted to touch upon you come in 81. 81 was like a breath of fresh air for New York Giants football. Ray Perkins, like you said, you guys made the playoffs. You upset the Eagles. You gave the 49ers hell, which I think a lot of people forget about that. That 49
game was, let me tell you something. You're 100% right. That game was close. And
correct.
we were down like, I'm going to say we're down like 4. And it's like maybe, I'm going to guess like 10 minutes left in the fourth. All right. And we moved the ball down to like 1st and goal at the 4 or 5. All right. So first play, we run like a little slant to Ernie Gray.
Okay.
He drops the ball. I mean, like, he's wide open. He just drops the ball. All right. So right there, we should have went up 3. We'll say +3 with 9-10 minutes left in the game. All right. So, but then on second down, nothing happened. Third down, nothing happened. Now we're kicking the ball. We're kicking the field goal from the 4-yard line. Our kicker, Joe Danello, who was absolutely terrible, he misses the field goal. He misses in the week before against Dallas. I think he missed 3 that put us in jeopardy to not win that game. We would not have gone to the Super. We would not have gone to the playoffs the following week.
Right.
So Danello misses a field goal from like 16 yards or 17 yards. It doesn't seem possible, but he did. All right. Now we're still down 4. There's like 8-9 minutes left, maybe even less. And on third down, we stopped them. They're gonna go 3 and out. They're going 3 and out. We're gonna get the ball back. But our defensive end, Gary Jeter, decides to punch Farnhorst in the head. And then 15-yard penalty. Then they rolled. They scored. We go back. Ronnie Lott picks off a pass from Bruner, runs it in for a touchdown. So instead of being up 3 or down 1, now they're punting the ball, and we're going to get the ball back with 6 minutes. Hey, you don't know.
Right.
You don't know. Because remember one thing, Joe Montana was not Joe Montana.
Correct.
No.
He was
right.
It was Joey Montana. You
right.
know? And then he became Joe Montana starting the next week against Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Right. No, Bill, I mean, again, you talk about that year, though. I think, you say you don't know. Bruner had a little bit of a magical touch that year. You guys were on a run. Nobody was expecting you guys to beat the Eagles. And like you said, that game was very frustrating. I was a kid then. My uncle, I was a big Ernest Gray fan, and my uncle reminded me how he dropped that ball, many, many times. And that changes the whole complexion of the game.
I was like uncovered. So, I pop up, I look to the left, I look to the right, and then I just look up and I see Ernie Gray, 5 yards from me. Yeah. And he just butterfingers the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was, that's not Scott Bruner's fault.
Right.
10 guys did their job and one guy didn't. That's
right.
Yeah. And everybody suffers for it. So that's, that's
now, Bill, my question for you is, I was wondering if you can tell me, because I've heard Phil Simms say this, how brutal, even compared to Parcells, how a Ray Perkins training camp was run.
All right. That is true.
I can see the pain in your face.
Yeah. Pause there for a second.
Man, let me tell you something. There's not a guy in the NFL, right? Maybe, all right, I'm going to say maybe there's 50 guys that are capable of going through what Ray Perkins put us through. But remember one thing, Perkins got there 2 years before me. What he did the first 2 years was insane. When I got there, he had to start, treating the players a little bit better. So our training camps were hard. They were tough. They were physical, but it wasn't like the first year. Like the first year, I'm told Ray Perkins the guys will go out there and practice for 4 hours, and they'll do like 30 plays inside 9-on-7, where most people do 10 to 12. All right. And so I'm told, like, Brad Van Pelt, Jim Clack, a couple of the leaders, Ray Perkins' first year, went up to at Pace University, went up to the coach and said, "Coach, can we speak to you?" And he's like, "Sure." And he goes, "Coach, we're just going too hard. There's guys out here just don't want to do this." And he said, "You tell those cowards, if they're not on the line, meaning at, stretching, at 10 up 3, I will cut every single one of them." And that's Ray Perkins.
Right.
I mean, he was tough. I mean, like, I remember, I'm starting, my sixth or seventh game in a row. Now we're playing Dallas the last game of the season. That was the game, man. That was the biggest game in 17 for the Giants fans. That's the game that your dad, talks about. All right. And Ray Perkins, I'm playing against Randy White, the Manster. He's the Hall of Famer, all pro, middle of his career, ready to go. And Ray Perkins comes up to me and he's like, he called me William with his Southern accent. William, can you block that 54 guy? Like, he didn't call him by his name, called him by his number. He always called, the only person I ever knew he called by his real name was Roger Staubach. But everyone else was just a number. Can you block that 54 guy? And I'm like, I'm gonna do my best, coach. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm 21 years old. I tell you, coach, every play, he'll know that I'm a pain in the ass. I can tell you that. So, but Ray was brutal. But by my first year, he got a little bit better. And I think because he now had some players, and he got rid of the guys that weren't tough and couldn't play, and he replaced them with guys that could play more, and guys that were just tough. And so, plus he knew if he killed us every single day in practice, you're going to go 0-14 or 0-16.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, Bill, he ends up leaving and replaces Bear Bryant at Alabama, which is a big step. And then now Bill Parcells comes in '83. Just talk about that first year and then the trajectory the team went on after that.
First year was bad for everybody. Bill, I think, as a defensive coordinator now, I'm young, so I wasn't really paying attention. But he had a great relationship with, like, Kelly and Van Pelt, and, he kidded around, and he was like kind of one of the guys, so to speak. And so I think what happened was when he first got there, became head coach, now everyone was like calling him Bill, and whatever. And I think the relationship was too comfortable, and he wasn't getting enough out of the players. Granted, he did not have a lot of players, and granted, a lot of guys got injured that year. And so, and granted, everyone thought they're going to be really good. And bottom line is we stunk. We were terrible. We were horrible. And, but then after '83, Bill went from, like, what's his middle name? Dwayne or something like that?
Dwayne,
yeah. So he went from Dwayne Parcells to Bill Parcells. '84, he came in. Different story, different attitude. F you. I don't give a shit about anything. You're going to play as hard. You're going to do what I'm going to tell you to do. And if not, you're gone. And that was the attitude. And he still, and his job was in jeopardy. And I think we had to go down to Atlanta. And I heard from Sims or somebody that if we didn't beat Atlanta that game, he was going to be fired and replaced by, like, Jerry Schellenberger, which would have been like the worst decision, the absolutely worst. Bring a college coach in with an attitude, you know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't work. So, but we won, and then Bill became Bill, and meaning that he was kind of a dick, but that's okay.
Yeah. Because it worked for him, so it worked for him.
And I respect it. I totally respect it, and people tell me, how is it? I'm like, hey, Bill is great. If you do everything right, play as hard as you can, do everything, right, he doesn't have a problem with you. He won't tell you anything good. He won't say anything good to you. I think the best thing he ever said to me is like, after 1 year, called me up and he said, you did okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he liked Jersey guys. I guess that's the best. I guess the best compliment for a Jersey guy. He seemed like he always liked. It was well documented. That was well documented after 83, 84. He said he was no more Mr. Nice Guy, and then he also liked Jersey guys. So you being a Jersey guy, I guess that's probably the best compliment you're going to get out of him. So.
Yeah, the best compliment I ever got out of him was when I left. Because, and I remember someone told me this, and I got a copy of it in the Star Ledger. I guess in '91, when they were going to the Super Bowl, he was, holding court, and he was asked, like, about this, how big the line is, like, Jumbos and William Roberts and guys like that, tell me about that line, and is it better than the Suburbanites? And Bill said, hey, I'm not going to tell you, yet that this line is better than the other guys. He goes, they're a lot bigger. And then he somehow brings me up. He goes, like, Billy Ard, what is he, 6'2", 250? Well, I was really like 6'4", 275, but he had to tell a story. It's okay.
Yeah.
He's 6'2", he's 250. And he goes, but every time he went out there, he figured it out, and he would try this and try that and do this and do that. And he goes, he's the best lineman I ever coached. And,
wow. So,
like, he would never said that to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but he was thinking it. So, and he actually.
I have all respect for Coach Parcells, and I would want to. I would play for him again.
Now, moving to like 85, you square off. We talked about this with Perry Williams in our last episode, and then by 85, and I heard a story that did somebody put a refrigerator on your front lawn? Because Refrigerator Perry was like the big name back then. Was that something, or is that folklore?
No. That is 100% accurate. So, I know a guy, and he's from Westfield. So on my day off, I go out to get the newspaper like 9:00 in the morning, and I see a refrigerator. It's a refrigerator. It has like, what was William Perry's number? Like
72, I think it was, right?
72.
Yeah. So there was like a 72 painted on it, and a helmet, the bear helmet, and it was a refrigerator, and it was kind of painted up. It's kind of cute and everything. And I'm like, what, WTF? What is this? What is this? Then I get a call from a friend of mine. He's laughing. And I said, Rich, you got to get rid of that thing. That thing is a distraction. It's a distraction. Parcells does not like distractions. If he hears about this, on my ass is grass. Let me tell you something. You got to do something here. And he's laughing. So I said, I'm going to disappear. So I go into town. I think I get some lunch. I spent like 3 hours in Westfield where I was living.
Yeah.
I come home. Now it's like 2 in the afternoon. And school started to get out. 10, 20, 50, 100 people outside my house. Then there were reporters, ABC, NBC, CBS. If this was the internet days, there would have been like 800 million hits.
Yeah.
Right. I was on Dan Rather nightly news to finish the thing. I was on every New York sports station. This article, they showed the refrigerator, and they asked me to come out next to the refrigerator. We lose the game, but after the game, I got these awards, like from the Jersey Sports Writers, Pro Athlete of the Year, a couple awards. And I started out every speech by saying, I want to thank William Refrigerator Perry for giving me my 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. But one thing Perry Williams did say on the plane ride back, I guess to a man, everybody said, that's never going to happen again. So you just talk a little bit about the ride back from Chicago back to Newark.
first thing I'm thinking is I don't want to play those Bears again with that 46 defense. When our coaching staff couldn't figure out how to block it. I mean, that's the problem. We went in there, we weren't ready. We just, the Bears did not know they were the Bears yet. They really didn't. And I still think that, like Ernie Gray dropping that pass, I think the biggest play of the game is Rob Carper on the first drive fumbling the ball for no reason. Like he caught the ball maybe on the 45, 40, and he's running, and he's just he's probably going to run down to the 20, 25, but he has this blue windbreaker on, and the ball just flies out, and they recover, and then there goes our field position. Even if we score a touchdown, we're up 7-0. We kick a field goal, we're up 3-0. If we just at least we reversed the field position, because that game was all about field position until we finally cracked and broke. But granted, I mean, they were a better team. They had a better scheme. We did not know how to block that scheme. It took our staff a year to dissect it. But I'm telling you what, if we got up 7-0 in that game, or 3-0, I'm not going to say we're going to win, but we sure had a great chance, because their offense wasn't that good. They were all defense. It was all defense. Yeah. And then Landetta, Sean, has a bad moment, misses the punt, and bingo,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So moving on. Yeah, go ahead, Bill. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was saying that, they were, they deserved the victory. They're better. But we caught them at the right day. And I think we let them off the hook.
Yeah. Now, moving on to 86 season, you guys knew you were good. It was building from 84 on. So just talk a little bit about the 86 season and going into the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
Well, the 86 season started on a Monday night down in Dallas. And our defense just kind of shit the bed that, we gave them the lead with 2 minutes left, and they went right down the field on us, Herschel left, Herschel right, Herschel left, Herschel right, boom, touchdown. We lose. We had a chance to run the clock out, because we go ahead, we stop them. I think we get the ball back, and on the first play we run a flow 38, a sweep to the right. And we rip them for 15. So now it would have been first and 10 from the 35. I think we got the ball on the 20. Then the ball goes back to the 10 because there was holding. I think Chris Godfrey had a holding call. So, I think if that holding call doesn't happen, maybe we run the clock out and it's over. But we punted the ball, defense gave them up, and, we're down 1-0. Now we're playing second week. We're playing San Diego at home. And San Diego, the week before, I think beat up on Miami. It was supposed to be a real good team that, supposed to be a solid team. And so they're coming to us, and this is a tough game. You got San Diego. They have plenty of players.
Eric Coryell, Kellen Winslow. I mean, So.
And, they had, I was playing against Leslie O'Neal. He was a first round pick, really good player, solid player. And, but I think we won 14-7, something like that. Is that right? 14-7, maybe. I think it was 14-7. I'll go with that. So it was a close game. And so we got the win, which was important. And then we started to get a little momentum. I know somewhere week 5 or 6, we go out to Seattle, right? And I think Sims threw 5 picks that day. Is that right? Am I right or wrong on that one? I don't remember.
Yeah.
I believe the final score of that game was 19-12, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Phil had a lot of picks. I don't know how many, but I thought he had a lot of picks. Maybe that's some other game. But So I remember that. Carl Nelson had a tough day. That's what it was. Carl Nelson had a tough day. I think he gave up like 3 or 4 sacks to Jacob Green. And we should have won that game. We're a better team than them, but we didn't. But after that, that was our second loss. I think we were like 5-2, 4-2. Then we started to, go on a roll, and we would, we were winning games close. Our offense wasn't really firing at all. We were just kind of figuring it out, and defense was keeping us in every game. But there was games they like I think Monday night against the Redskins, I think we put 30 something points on them or something, and defense gave up like 28. Bottom line is, all those games, whether who was playing better, offense or defense, the games were close. I mean, really, really close. But eventually, it all started to come together, both sides of the ball. And, I still think that Minnesota game was a massive game for us. We came back and we won that game. Now that told everyone got fired up. And then I think the next week we had to go to Washington to play Washington for the championship, I guess, something along those lines. And, I don't remember what the score was, but I thought we just put it to them. I thought we, maybe the score didn't, doesn't tell the whole story. Maybe it was like, I don't know what the score was, 21-14. I don't know what the score was, but we were much better than them. And, and then we started to play St. Louis, beat, I remember talking to Tom Bresnahan. Tom was a coach for the Giants for a couple of years. He was my line coach. And I remember talking to him before the game, and, this is probably a couple hours before the game. And he said to me, "Oh, I think you guys are ripe for the picking today." And I'm like, "You do? Why is that?" He goes, "Well, you guys clinched division. You're not going to be as confident or whatever. You're going to be not as hungry." And I said to him, quote unquote, I said, "Tom, we're going to kick the shit out of you guys." I think we won 28-0.
Yeah.
And then we played Green Bay the week later. I think we scored 55 on them or something.
Yep.
And then
Tom Flynn blocked punt.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite plays of all my career, because Tommy Flynn got cut by those guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's
weeks earlier.
Yeah.
Going down the sidelines, and he's pointing the ball at Forrest Gregg.
Oh yeah.
Like Forrest Gregg, what a knucklehead. So,
yeah.
So then now we're going to play Washington. I think we're going to play Washington. And I remember talking to John Madden. And John Madden, I had like a book, like his John Madden book. And I went up to him on Saturday, said, hey, John, would you mind signing this? He's like, sure. And he goes, "So tomorrow you're going to have a tough game tomorrow, huh?" I said, like, I'm not sure if John really believed in us. I don't think he really did, because he was doing our games since '81 when he got out of coaching. And, we were at times okay, but at times we were really bad. So Madden was not necessarily, thank God for Summerall, but Madden was not necessarily on our train, but he was on the 49er train. And he said, "You're going to have a tough game tomorrow." And I told him, I said, "We're going to kill them. We're going to kill them." And we put, at 49 points on them or something like that.
Yeah, 49-3.
Yeah. 49-3, yeah.
And so, but yeah, no, we started putting it together, and like the sad part of the season was the last game of the season after we won the Super Bowl, we had no one else to play.
Yeah.
Now, Bill, quick question, right? So Parcells was great with nicknames, and I loved the nickname of Chris Godfrey, Biscuits.
Yeah.
And I like how Godfrey used to try to turn that around on him, saying that because Parcells told Chris that he was soft and fluffy, and Godfrey's response was because he knew where his bread was buttered. I just love that. So I was wondering, did you have a nickname?
I did have a nickname
that you could say on camera. That is.
Yeah.
I had a nickname, and Bill liked it, but he didn't understand where it came from.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was a massive Atlanta Braves baseball fan. I would watch, easily 100 games a year on TBS. And, they had, so Johnny Parker, our strength coach, knew it because he was a Cardinal fan, big St. Louis Cardinal fan.
Okay.
So we would always talk baseball, we're in the weight room and all. And so he would call me Murph or Dale Murphy or, like Eggs for Bruce Benedict or,
Right.
he had little nicknames for different players. So one day during team stretch, I remember this, he called me Biff. And I said, Johnny, you can call me any nickname you want, but you're not going to call me Biff Pokeroba because, he was like a backup catcher who was no good. And I'm like, I'm not Biff Pokeroba. You can call me, you got to give me a starter. You call me a starter. I don't care what the nickname is. You can call me Lemke. I don't care. You're not going to call me the backup catcher who bats like, 0.062.
Yeah.
So it stuck. But Bill started hearing it like, Johnny would say, yo, Biff, come on over here, Biff. And so Bill thought Biff was because I'm from the suburbs. Like, I was living in Summit at the time. And he's thinking, a little Biffy living in Summit, New Jersey, probably went to Del Barton or something, and so that stuck. So I just became Biff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, Bill, I know we're getting to it. And listen, thanks for walking down memory lane. But you end up leaving NFL. You went into finance for a little bit, and then you got a new venture now. So, just talk a little bit about your venture, how you came across it, what it is, and then how people could find it. So,
well, after football, I worked on Wall Street for like 28 years, and I was, COVID was hitting and I was finishing it up or something along those lines. And I'm thinking, it's a good time. Maybe it's a good time to transition out of this. And I got a call from a good friend of mine from college. He was a senior when I was a freshman. And he was a football player and baseball player, Hall of Famer, and at Wake Forest. And he said, Bill, I'd like to meet with you. I bought this company and out of bankruptcy. I've been working for the company for a couple of years. And I said, sure, John. I said, what is it about? What do you do? And he goes, well, we make a football shell that connects to a helmet that reduces impact and makes the game of football a lot safer. So I said, all right, that seems interesting. I would like to meet and find out about it, like to see it, what data do you have or something. So I met with him. He showed me the product. I thought it was pretty cool how it snaps on and how they can make it game day ready. And you would not even know it's on. If you're more than 2 or 3 yards away, you're not going to notice any difference. All right. So I read like Penn State did like a 2-year study with it. And it was the reduction of risk of concussion was as high as 77%, on certain hits. And so I got involved and I said, Zig, I'm all for making the game of football safer. I have a good Rolodex and I can introduce you to a lot of people. So hence, over the last couple of years, this is kind of what I've been doing. 2 years ago, most importantly, we brought our shell down to Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech has a helmet lab. They've been around since like 2010, 2011. And it's the lab where all helmets are graded and rated. So everyone in football or lacrosse or even hockey, they know about Virginia Tech's testing lab. So we went down there. We brought 3 helmets, 2 Rydell's and 1 Schutt, and we tested them. This is for 2 days. 2 days of testing, 4 different angles, front, back, side, and a thing called side boss, which is kind of like the angle. And we did it from 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. Big hammer coming down with the big hits. And not to bore you too much, but with the big hit on the best helmets graded out by Virginia Tech, the top 3, they're 5-star helmets. The risk of concussion for the biggest hit was 60%. 60% risk of concussion if you got this hit from the back or side. Now we put the Guardian, which is a good product. we brought the Guardian down there, and that's where everyone's talking about now.
Yeah. Yep.
So the Guardian was put on, and we tested that also, and the reduction went from the big hit from 60 down to 50. So that's a good improvement. So then we had our SAFR shell on, all right, and exact same, dropping the hammer, the biggest hit to the vulnerable area, the backside of the head, and we reduced it down to 8%. So we went from 8% down to 8%. And so I know everyone's talking about the Guardian because there's been some unfortunate deaths and everything. And the Guardian's a good product. It really, really is. But people need to understand, because they're saying, oh, the NFL wears the Guardian. Well, the NFL does in practice wear the Guardian, but there are two Guardians. There is the XT, which is for youth kids, high school and colleges. And then there's the NXT, that's the Guardian NXT for the NFL. And the difference is probably, 50, 60% bigger, thicker, heavier product. So what I'm excited about is that SAFR makes a great product, and the data shows that it's a safer product, to the point where Virginia Tech, after the testing was done, they went to their football program, and they're not related, and said, hey, look at this number. Look at the data here. They bought 130 the next day.
Oh, wow.
We've been growing. NC State's been wearing it for 6 years. We got South Carolina now, Duke, Pittsburgh, and we're growing. We're a small company, but when you hear the story, it's a powerful story. And the beautiful thing about our product is that it's a beautiful. You're not going to tell. We can replicate your paint. It's helmet specific. We put your decal on it, and no one's going to know. And your player is safer, much safer wearing this thing. So that's what I'm doing. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's passionate. It's, the game I love is football. I want to keep it going.
Yeah, well, you sent us a piece, and I'll put it on our social media. Pat McAfee did a little piece on it, and also, you talked the Bob Papa interview you sent to prior to this. But I know, my son played high school football. He started out late. He was kind of like you in junior year, but for sometimes they'll send the helmets out to refurbishment. Is that something how does that work for you guys with the helmets?
Okay, so that's a really, really, really good question. All right, so if you put our shell on, you will not need to paint your helmet going forward. You won't, because it's going to be covered, and it's not ours. You spray a little alcohol on it, you rub it out, it's fine. There's no reconditioning to the shell. You take the shell off, you take your helmet, you send it to the reconditioner for the inside of the helmet, not the outside, the inside. Okay. So right away we save programs, if you paint something, maybe $20, $30, $40. I don't know what type of paint you're using. Yeah, but so right there, it's safer. You put the shell on. If you're high school or youth football, and we're getting colleges, more players are starting to wear it. Last year, Virginia Tech, 3 offensive linemen wore the product in the game the last half of the season. And you put it on, you don't take it off. The product will last probably 4 or 5 years. And if there's, it's all spring loaded. And if something happens, something breaks, we'll just replace it. So, it's a good product. Lasts, quite a while. And
just for our listeners, it's spelled SAFR, right? Is that an acronym or is this?
Yes, it is an acronym, and it's it's a technical, like safety of force reduction, something about force reduction.
Okay.
But it's safersports.com, and you can see you can go on our website. We show all the data, all the science, Virginia Tech testing, all the schools that are wearing it. It's growing day by day.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm gonna let Jerry close this one out, but I can't thank you enough, for the stories. I mean, it's really been comical, and then, having you on here, and then, I remember, I think your family had a sign when one of the games I was going to let Ard be your guard. So like they used to have like this Ard. So I'll let Jerry close this out. I don't know, Jerry, what you got left, but I really appreciate you coming on. It's really interesting stuff. Keeping safe. My wife didn't want my son to play football, and then it turned out it was one of the best things for him because I think he built confidence. He worked as a team, and it really kind of helped him. He didn't play in college, but just helped him kind of get out of his way a little bit. So I think it was a great sport, but
you're a piece, you're a cog,
yeah,
you're just one
Absolutely.
piece of the machine. And
yeah,
that's the beautiful thing, whether you're on the kickoff coverage or punt coverage or, whatever, you're the punter, kicker, guard, safety,
yeah.
everyone's important.
Yeah, Jerry, why don't you close this out with Bill?
Absolutely. Well, Bill, I just want to say from a personal standpoint, growing up, diehard Giant fan, the 86 team, of course, is my all-time favorite team. So, thanks for coming on, thanks for the memories. And it's absolutely wonderful to have you on and then to hear you're still making, an impact, in the game of football. So again, this has been great. Like I said, Jimmy said last episode, we had your teammate, Perry Williams. Now earlier off camera, you gave me a nice story to share with him. I actually have to speak with him on Tuesday about something else. But again, it's just so great to hear from, God, when you were a kid being a sports fan, there's nothing like, years later revisiting these stories. And, that 86 team, really means the world for me. And I reference that to my own son, nowadays, and just to have, you and Perry on and, to hear the stories about the suburbanites, because I think, just closing the show out here, everybody talks about the Giant defense in the 80s, and rightfully so. But they forget, when the offense started clicking, good things started happening. And, you were a big part of that. You, Chris Godfrey, Brad Benson, Bart Oates, that was really, 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 a great group to root for as a kid. And, like I said, thanks again. We look forward to speaking again in the near future as well. So thanks again from Jimmy and I.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it very much. I enjoyed it. Kicking a can down memory lane.
Yeah.
Sometimes the memory gets a little bit dimmer, but
that's all right. Hey, listen, the delivery is still there, though. But I mean, we'd love to have you back on, in the near future just to see.
Hurry up, sticking to it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right, guys.
Yeah, listen, Bill, this is episode number 16. Can't thank you enough. We wish maybe you and Perry can come back on or something. You go banter about Wake Forest and NC State. But anyway, that's for another day. But
all right.
But anyway, thanks for your time, Bill. I really appreciate it. And this is
for our listeners. Thank you for joining us again. Number 67, Bill Ard, New York Giants Super Bowl champ. And look for our next episode coming very shortly. We will be discussing a entirely different topic. We will be talking about Pete Rose. Take care now.
Take care.